Hey there. I am so excited to be with you today as we are looking at what could feel like kind of an ordinary week coming up. Do you ever feel like Easter's upon you and you weren't ready for it and you're just feeling all ordinary yourself and you didn't want that and you want to make it extraordinary for yourself and others? Well, today we're going to be looking at two ways to do that. And I'll be unpacking those in a minute. And you're going to get a free resource that can also help you and help me together have this Easter be as extraordinary as we'd really love for it to be. All right, even in the midst of really busy ordinary that we all live in, right? So before we do that, though, we're going to get into some fun kind of this or that questions. And this is also a chance for you to enter a drawing for an Every Woman's Story mug. Hey, and as you're doing that, before we go too much further, you may have noticed that my friend Elisa Cortez Bast, my co-host, is not here because, like many of you, she is on her way to her spring break, her Easter vacation with her family. So happy vacationers. If you're joining us from vacation, we're just glad to have you here too. All right. So as you enter your this or that questions, if you'd go ahead and not only answer, but also post the names of some of your friends and tag them. Everybody who you tag, including you, will be entered in a drawing for an Every Woman's Story mug. And I have to tell you that my friends and I who have these mugs think they are super pretty. And some of us even say that coffee and tea taste better in these mugs than it would otherwise. So you decide for yourself if you win one, okay? All right, so when you think about Easter and you're just thinking about what's on the table, and we're going to get to two tips later about taking our ordinary, sometimes overwhelmed lives and having this be an extraordinary Easter. But for now, just some fun questions. Do you prefer ham or lamb? You can answer that. And then another one would be, do you do hard-boiled eggs or do you stuff and maybe hunt for plastic eggs and put candy inside of plastic eggs? Of course, there's always the both category, but another one is, do you prefer Peeps, those little marshmallow chicks and bunnies, or jelly beans as an Easter candy? And then finally, if you're doing a side dish, a vegetable that goes with your ham or your lamb, is it asparagus? Or is it like a spring salad mix, maybe even with some edible flowers, oh my, on top? Then there's so many other, like, is it mint sauce, that kind of English stuff that is green and you can't see through it? Or is it mint jelly, which is clear and you can, which you have with your lamb? And then if you head to a religious service on Easter, do you go to the sunrise service and get up really early? Like there's one near me at a military base, it's super early. Or do you prefer to go to one a little bit later in the day and go to a daytime service that's not at the break of day? And then finally, one of my favorites is bread. Okay, bread. Such a controversial little food group, isn't it? But if you're having a sweet bread with your Easter meal, is it hot cross buns like my sweet mom used to buy at the store? It's the only time I saw them all year long. They're little round buns that have little icing crosses on them. Or do you do something homemade like what I'd say is like an Easter bread, like a Portuguese Easter bread or a Greek Easter bread? And that's a fun thing for me as my dad, growing up, we grew up and I'm still living in an area that has a really robust Portuguese community. And so we gathered a fabulous recipe for Portuguese Easter bread that I still make most Easters, at least when I can find flour. So put some of your this or that's, tag your friends, and we will go ahead and enter all of y'all in the drawing for the mug. But right now we're going to turn to the two things I promised. Ordinary day. Oh my goodness. The start of Easter week is this Sunday. It's Palm Sunday. And then Easter's April 9th. And it's all just crashing in on us, right? I don't know about you, but those are the sound effects that fit for me. So what I want to do, and what we love to do in Every Woman's Story, is talk about how we can discover kind of the story we're made for as we look at God's story in the Bible. So we're going to look at one woman's story in the Bible and look at how her story can help us in our stories be more of who we are fully made to be as we think about celebrating what we hope will be a extraordinary, or at least a good, right, meaningful Easter. So we're going to go ahead and look at the story in the book of John. That's in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the fourth book, and it is chapter 20, verses 13 to 18. And I'll go ahead and read about this woman's very, I wouldn't even just say it was an ordinary day that she was having. She was having a really bad day. Can you relate? Okay. Maybe some of you are feeling sick right now. I've been hearing a bunch of people are catching more colds and other nasty viruses right now. Maybe you can relate. But here is what was going on for her bad day. And here's how the passage reads, John 20, 13 to 18. Dear woman, why are you crying? The angels asked her. Because they have taken away my Lord, she replied, and I don't know where they have put him. She turned to leave and saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. Dear woman, why are you crying? Jesus asked her. Who are you looking for? She thought he was the gardener. Sir, she said, if you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him. Mary, Jesus said. She turned to him and cried out, Rabboni, which is Hebrew for teacher. Don't cling to me, Jesus said, for I haven't yet ascended to the Father. But go, find my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene found the disciples and told them, I have seen the Lord. And then she gave them his message. All right. Well, I see two things happening that can help take our Easter that is crashing down for many of us and go from maybe overwhelmed states of mind that we're in, maybe just feeling ho-hum, unprepared, not ready, and then have that go to extraordinary. So the first thing I see is that she spent time really grieving and really connecting with the loss that was going on in her life. She connected with the loss of Jesus, who she loved and had been traveling with for a few years and following. And you could also say the loss of dreams, right? Because she had hoped he was the Messiah, the chosen one. And when he had just been killed and crucified on a cross, that seemed like that dream was dead. The loss of dreams. So she took time to actually draw close to God with the fullness of her emotion. And if you're like me, I literally use an app to help me name my emotions because I'm like, how am I feeling? I mean, mad, sad, glad, just that's not the full range of emotions. And the more I can bear those emotions with God, the closer God and I can connect. It's kind of like in the Psalms, the book of Psalms in the Bible. Those are really descriptive of emotions that people felt. And God welcomes the fullness of our emotion, just like Mary Magdalene was sobbing and crying out. So taking that time. Now, I want to give you a resource because if you're like me, you're like, I don't really love getting in touch with my emotions. Thank you very much. And I don't know how to. So we're providing you with a gift, and every woman's story gift of a prayer journey to Easter that has two parts. The first part is this. It helps you draw near to God and just pray and draw near to God's good story for you in your real life situation. Okay, so what we see Mary doing in part one is she takes the time, she goes to the garden, she sobs, she connects with the broken dreams and the loss of who she had hoped Jesus would be in her life. She connects with that. The second thing we see her doing is she actually goes and tells the message. Now, if you are like me, that feels scary, right? What maybe compelled her to tell this message aside from Jesus saying, Mary? Well, I think it relates to the article that is the one I wrote this month for Every Woman's Story called You Are Enough Because Jesus Makes You Enough. And that moment where Jesus said, Mary, I am your God, and etc., he is affirming he sees her, he knows her, and he is counting her enough to go be, in the book of John, the first witness, the first person who talked to the world about Jesus being raised from the dead was Mary, not some big preacher dude or, person. It was Mary. He trusts her enough and says, you go tell that message. I trust you. You're capable. You're able. You're chosen. And so, first of all, it's just embracing you, friend, you, I'm talking to you. God sees you right now, even though I'm just kind of looking through, our live here together. You are similarly enough in God's eyes. You are qualified to be able to be the arms and legs and hands and feet and whatever and mouthpiece for Jesus. There are people only you can love who need your invitation, your opportunity to draw near to the Easter story, and you can do it. You can do it. Jesus believes that you can do it. I mean, it's just like he did with Mary Magdalene. I wanted to just break down some of the things that get in our way. But first of all, in that guide, the prayer guide to Easter that we are giving you as just a free gift, you will also see that each day there's the drawing close to Jesus, and then there's the how do you go and love others toward Jesus, you uniquely with your friends and your problems and their problems. Well, one of the things that I wanted to bring up were just a couple fun practical ideas that don't seem that overwhelming. First of all, a lot of us go, gosh, it's too late to invite someone to an Easter service. They make their plans 3 weeks in advance. Well, not everybody makes their plans 3 weeks in advance. And just even asking people open-endedly, hey, what are you doing on Easter? And then hearing their answer. If they say, you know what, I'm going to church, or I'm going to the game with my friends, or whatever, you know. But if they say, you know, I don't really know yet, well, there you go. Hey, how would you like to come and come to my church with me? And I will pick you up, or I'll sit and save a place for you. And then I'd love to have a meal afterwards. Okay. All right. Second part, that meal afterwards. You're like, do I have to cook lamb with rosemary sprigs and asparagus and edible flowers and put the china and the crystal out? Not necessarily. You might enjoy that. Go for it. Last year, after Easter services, my friends and I threw a pool party. We just invited some people over, and we sat outside the pool of the condominium where we lived, and we had a simple table set up with some, sparkling waters and some hard-boiled eggs and some like snack trays. That was it. Oh my goodness, people stayed for hours. They just wanted to be together. It doesn't have to be fancy. We had paper plates and plasticware and plastic tablecloths. All right. And I think somebody brought bunnies, stuffed bunnies for the table decorations. You get it. Not fancy, but it was totally wonderful. And it brought people together. Or maybe you're a cook, or maybe you're a gardener. And what you want to do is you want to bake some bread and bring it to somebody and just say, hey, I'm thinking of you at Easter time. That is going to make their Easter extraordinary. It's going to make yours extraordinary as well. If you're a gardener, maybe you're planting some seeds, or you have some seed packets and you want to just deliver them. And maybe you want to bring a plant that you're just starting and you want to leave it for somebody and say, hey, new life. That's what I'm celebrating this Easter. And I want you to be able to know that I care about you and your life too. You get the idea. Lots of fun ideas. But the real point is this. Like Mary Magdalene, yeah, we have things. We have things. I have things right now. I bet you have things right now that can make you want to go weep in a garden, right? We have days that go, oh, it's overwhelming. I can't even think about another holiday. And we can follow her pattern. Really grieve, go to God, take the time, pray. Our prayer guide will help you do that if you're like me and that's difficult. And then recognize that we're made for extraordinary influence. You have extraordinary influence with people. Only you can actually be the hands and feet and the mouthpiece of Jesus too. So let's pray and ask God to show us what that might look like, not in a big fancy perfection way, but in a way that's just practical and that will bless and enrich the lives of those only you can love toward Jesus. All right, well, friends, that is it. I wanted to remind you, put in the chat, in the comments, tag your friends. They'll be entered for that Every Woman's Story community mug. And thank you so much for joining us today. And I just wish you an extraordinary Easter. God bless you. Bye.